Once you put a book out there, you can never take it back. And someday you don't want to be embarrassed by how bad it is. So.
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
Welcome to this week's show. Douglas, how are you?
I am fabulous, Nicholas. How are you, sir?
You look gorgeous. And let me say, the stuffed pheasant behind you,
Henry,
looks fantastic too. Henry is in top form.
Named by Tess Gerritsen now, so that's what.
Absolutely. Named by Tess Gerritsen. It will live in infamy. Thank you big time to our friends at Vellum for supporting the show, helping us bring it to you. Best formatting, software available. They have this new cool thing, which is a visualize word count. So there's some buttons up there you can click to see it, and it will plot across your chapters in your book and show the word count for each chapter. So you can look at the kind of flow and balance of the chapters in your book. And then you can do that. If you do that across all your books, you can start looking at a kind of rhythm. Maybe it's a particular rhythm that you have, a pacing. That's important. We have a cadence, right?
Yeah. If you can start remembering what your cadence is, and especially as you're learning to begin with, but you and I have been writing enough that we probably have our cadence is kind of built in, but sometimes trying to remember, okay, I'm changing this up a little bit. That's going to help you keep an eye on, this book's different. Why is that? Oh, well, I have chapters that have 1,500 words and I have chapters that have 4,000 words. Well, that throws it off sometimes. So
yeah, absolutely. And you can use that to effect with the way the book presents. So
you say that very smart to effect. You sound so intelligent when you talk like that.
Well, I definitely peaked right there then. If I accidentally felt smart, it was purely by accident. In fact, I apologize, because from now on, you'll be thinking that more intelligent words are going to come out of me, and they're just not. They're just not.
That's the best we could do. That was it.
That was it. I peaked right there. So big thank you to Vellum. Very, really cool feature. If you got Vellum, go check that out if you haven't already. Also, big thank you to our Patreon supporters, and huge thank you to Henry Bosley for joining our Patreon. There was a new one this past week, which by the time this airs, it's about a month after you joined. But if you too join, you too can get a shout out months after you join.
Months, yes. But we'll know your name and we'll be shouting you out and remember you. But we do appreciate it very much, because if you guys get any value out of it, like, we've said this before, this just helps us kind of, pay for the show, pay for all the little things that gets us going, to keep our wheel oiled. The
main thing it pays for is Sam, our editor, that makes us sound half sensible.
That's right.
Without Sam, this would be a complete disaster.
Yeah, we'd be terrible. But if you guys can, just jump over to patreon.com/The Two Authors Podcast. We have just some extras in there. We'll have like all the bonus questions, a few fun things. It's just a couple of dollars, $3 to be fair. So
$3 a month. That's it. All right. Our guest today is thriller author, Outlier University co-founder, and former co-president of International Thriller Writers.
That's a lot of words there.
That was.
Man, that's a lot. Yeah. Huh.
Well, Kathleen's very, very accomplished.
She's very
Kathleen
accomplished.
Antrim. She's been on the show before. She's back to chat with us again. But first, we have a listener question from our recent guest, April Henry. April Henry, thank you so much for sticking around for all these little bonus bits that we do. And you have a question for us. What you got?
What is the craziest thing you've ever done for research?
Oh, for research. I thought you were just going to end at the craziest thing you've ever done. I'm like, boy, let me make a list for you.
Well, you can say it was research for a future book.
I will say anything I do that's crazy is probably going to end up in a book. So craziest thing I've ever done. I do love to go, because a lot of my books take place in other countries. So just automatically just going. We did my wife and I went and walked Cartagena, Colombia, just to follow out where I wanted to have a motorcycle chase scene. So we walked the whole thing to see where everything was and could I make it work? And then she said, no, that won't work. And I go, yeah, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's a book. And so I don't know if that's the craziest, but I've done a lot of reaching out to some people that are just kind of out there, kind of like I said, you go to these forums and stuff. Nicholas, what's yours? You did some tech diving.
Yeah, I did a tech diving course because I wanted to, because I was writing about one of my series is based around a scuba diver. So I wanted to learn more about that to include it in the books. Probably the craziest would be for one of those books. It's called The Wrecks of Key Largo, and it's part of my AJ Bailey series. And in the story, she dives inside these well-known wrecks in the Florida Keys. And one of them, she goes inside the engine room of the Spiegel Grove, which is 120 feet down inside the engine rooms, which are kind of midships below everything, below decks. And it's pretty much a tech dive. It's very much a tech dive by all the rules of diving. And a friend of mine and I were a bit naughty, and we went further than we should on recreation on pony tanks and went down inside the engine room. So that was probably the most irresponsible thing I've done in terms of research.
Well, we just saw those 5 divers who died in the cave. So, people, that can be dangerous.
They are trained tech divers that were way, way deep down, and it all went wrong. It's things at those depths that they were at can really go badly. What about you, April? What's the craziest thing you've done for research?
Well, let's see. I've done a bunch of crazy stuff. Probably this is a minor one, but I once had my daughter duct tape my hands behind my back, and so I could see what it felt like. And then I was upstairs on these very steep stairs, and I was done making notes about what it would be like. And then my daughter was downstairs watching TV, and I could not get her to come back upstairs. I was like, and I remember staring at the stairs thinking, I could try going down them, but with my hands duct taped behind my back, I think this is a bad idea. So
she's downstairs like, I'll get to you in a minute. I'm watching Gilmore Girls. I'll be out.
Exactly. Yeah, she was binging the whole series. So 3 days later, you got out of the duct tape. All right. Thank you so much, April. We really appreciate you sticking around. Kathleen Antrim, welcome back to the show. It's lovely to see you again.
Thanks, Nick. It's so great to be here. Hey, Doug, how are you?
How you doing? It's so great to have you. Like I said, you were a glutton for punishment to come back with us again.
I really enjoy being with you guys. So anytime you need me, you just
that's always nice to hear.
A quick email and I'll be on. I love it.
Brilliant. All right. Well, kick us off with telling us a little bit about your very interesting background of how you first got started in writing and when you were first published.
I wrote my first book when I was 7, and my mother took it down to Kinko's and published it. I did my own illustrations and everything. The spelling was bad, but I was 7. So, but it actually had a 3-act structure. It had an opening, it had conflict, it had resolution. Anyway, so kind of funny about that. And then I had a teacher, and I often talk about this when I speak, like in different schools or what have you. I had a teacher in 12th grade who said he was going to be ill on my paper because there was too much hyperbole in it, and it was a creative writing class. And I believed him, so I thought I couldn't write. And so I stopped writing for quite a few years. I just wrote academically and for business, but I didn't write creatively until I hit about 30 and thought about, why did I ever stop writing? It had been a passion my whole life. So picked up the pen again, so to speak, and just started writing. Didn't know anybody in publishing, didn't know anything about writing a book. And from there, started going to conferences to learn, which is pretty much the only way to really learn. There's a few universities, but not many, that actually teach commercial writing because, the professors aren't doing it, so they don't know how to teach it. And then that kind of diverged into writing for newspapers, and that grew rather quickly until I was writing a big Metro column for the San Francisco Examiner, which turned into a political commentary career that took me on radio, and I was on a lot of different shows, a lot of debate shows, a lot of live flying without a wire or without a net kind of thing. Yeah, so Radio America, Hot Talk 560 KSFO in Northern California, etc. Then I had my own syndicated show. I left radio about 3 years ago. I left commentary or writing before that even, and have gotten back to my own writing, so to speak. But in the meantime, I was very active in starting international thriller writers with David Morrell and Gail Linz. And from there, ended up running ThrillerFest for 7 or 8 years in the beginning. like from year 2, and then became president of International Thriller Writers. And then 3 years ago, we started Outlier. So there you have it.
Well, can I say one thing? She nailed that radio call sign like a DJ did in a heartbeat.
No kidding.
Like,
I was thinking the same thing.
Man, she was like, KCF.
560 KSF.
I was like, all the news all the time, ready to go.
That's right.
Traffic on the twos.
It's embedded, programmed in there. It's the last thought you'll ever have. It'll never go away.
Could I also say that your high school teacher who used hyperbole to tell you that you weren't using hyperbole, you were using too much hyperbole.
I'm sure I was. I mean, I was in high school.
I'm sure, of course. But the fact that he's like, I'm going to be ill on it, that in itself is hyperbole. So he might want to learn a little bit about irony too. I feel like
Isn't that? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I believed him. I mean, and he said it in front of the whole class, so I was mortified.
Oh, that's nice. What a great teacher that is.
What a gem, yeah.
How many people are so inspired by that class? Oh, I'm going to go in there and be berated. So.
Yeah.
The good news is I'm pretty sure your 2 careers took different paths, and while his I'm sure stagnated with his teaching skills. All right, so lots to dive into here. So you picked a good time to get out of political commentary.
Oh, you have no idea.
Or you just kind of meld that into fiction writing. Is not a whole lot different.
It's the same thing. Yeah,
I did a political thriller, so there you go. But that actually turned into 2 years. I commuted for 2 years from California to DC because I worked behind the scenes in the Senate. I was with Senator George Allen, the former governor of Virginia, when he was running for president. That's a whole nother story that I'll probably someday fictionalize because he was, I believe, taken out by his own party. But all of that to say that after working on the Hill for those 2 years, I claim no political party. They're both equally corrupt. They all do the same things.
That's about right. That's fair.
So you started off writing fiction. You were told you weren't writing fiction very well. You went into writing almost nonfiction in the political camp, mostly nonfiction. And then you switched back again. So what were the big things that you had to stop yourself doing when you started getting back into the creative writing again with fiction?
The big thing I had to stop myself doing is volunteering for everything. Because, I am notorious for not saying no. And then that really, especially with International Thriller Writers, when I took that over, it was such a fledgling organization. We didn't have any infrastructure under the conference, which was a big monetary liability for the organization. We didn't have any structure under the actual organization itself. So for 7 or 8 years, I really need to go back and look at how many years I did ThrillerFest as the VP of National Events. Built the infrastructure into that, hired an executive director for the event, and then became president and built the infrastructure under the organization and hired an executive director for the organization. I had done 501c3s before, and I started a big charity event we used to do in California for children in need. So I had some sense about how things needed to be done and the fact that you have to have an executive director because if you don't, every new board will revisit the very same topics over and over and over again.
Well, so just kind of for people who really don't know it, kind of give us a quick, you started ThrillerFest, but what is it that people who are like, I'm going to ThrillerFest, what is it really that they're getting out of it? And what was you already kind of gave us your role in building it, but what is it that an author is going to find in ThrillerFest? So
I took it over year 2, and then when I left the second year of the conference, I was running the next one. What an author, there's so much that an author will get from going to ThrillerFest. A lot of community, meeting new friends, feeling like you're at home with your tribe, really building relationships. Like any other business, relationships are so important. Look at us here. We've gotten to know each other through conferences, et cetera. And it's just really important to do that. ThrillerFest has a few days before the actual ThrillerFest conference called Craft Fest, which I personally think is the best part of the whole thing, where you can spend basically 2 days going in and out of classes and learning from best-selling authors who are actually working writers who are out there doing it. And that's the best instruction you can get. And so, you also can meet agents and editor. There is so much there that can help you. It is expensive. Unfortunately, New York City is expensive will always be expensive.
That's true. Yeah.
But the reason it's in New York City is because keeping it in that location ensures that you get editors and agents attending because they don't have to travel, et cetera, and spend money. So it's important that it's there. When Doug Lyle ran the education side for me with ThrillerFest. He ran the Craft Fest side and started Master Craft Fest as well. And so later on, many years later after the pandemic, that's how we decided to do Outliers, which is basically the same thing, but now online, at home, still live, can ask live questions of the instructors. But, it's a lot less expensive. We try to keep it very affordable. And it's kind of funny how things springboard off of each other.
And now, a quick word from this episode's sponsor.
Here's what makes Author Nation incomparable. It's the only conference with a strategic focus on helping authors find new readers on platforms like Kickstarter. And they don't just teach it, they do it.
You're right. Case in point. Following the $56,000 raised for its first graphic novel anthology, now they're doing All In on Love. 20 romance authors, 19 stories on Kickstarter. That's learning by doing in action. So go see how it works at authornation.live.
And back to the show. ThrillerFest went from what you started relatively small and is huge now. I mean, it's and we were just chatting with Lisa Gardner was on the show the other week, and she's been involved there and doing stuff, and she's lovely. We asked her this question a little bit, but I want to hear it from you as well. So a lot of our listeners, and probably the majority of our listeners, are going to be indie published or looking to be indie published. Is ThrillerFest still a good place for an indie author?
Absolutely. So with international thriller writers right now, I'm not sure. I know that the new boards have changed some criteria, but you can apply to be, accepted like any other traditionally published author or hybrid. And then you don't even pay dues for the organization, but you do have to pay to attend ThrillerFest. But absolutely, in fact, I know that there's classes on being a hybrid author, which means you're traditionally published as well as indie publishing. A lot of times, indie publishing backlist books that you've had for years when you get the rights back. And there's also just indie authors there who talk about the overall business and how to, run your business as well as learn craft, etc. The one thing that I think is really important, let me stress, really important, is if you're going to be an indie author, please, please, please learn the craft of writing. I mean, for me, one of my favorite parts about being writers that we're never done learning, but really to learn the craft of writing and get really good editing because, once you put a book out there, you can never take it back. And someday you don't want to be embarrassed by how bad it is. So.
I revel in the embarrassment of my first book, and it stays out there. And I'm like, whatever. I'm like, you know what? It's so, I could take it down. It's just, but I'm like, it still makes money. So I'm going to leave it up there. But overall, I tell people, I say, don't read it. Don't read that book. There's a whole lot of better books out there. I got 40 books out. So
it's just really important. And by the way, I just want to make the point that your high school English teacher, your mother, your best friend who likes to read, they're not editors. You need to get a great commercial editor and pay them what they're worth.
I think for, most of us that are indie, that are making a living doing this, have certainly taken that advice at some point along to get to the point we're at now. But it's certainly great advice for those getting into it now. And as you talked about at ThrillerFest, there's a whole craft portion of it. And it doesn't matter whether you're traditional, hybrid, or indie. Craft is craft, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Craft is craft. And, to learn to show, not tell, to learn point of view, to really understand the story structure, character arcs, story arc, it's really important if you want people other than your family who love you very much to read it.
Whose family are you talking about?
There might be problems with that too. Not so sure.
My family reads Doug's books.
So as we talk about Craft Fest, one of the classes you taught was the art of the pitch, right? And so this is kind of like feeding straight people. There's also Pitch Fest, right? And so can you give our listeners like a little idea what's the best way to make a pitch actually work and how to deliver one?
So I'm really pretty tyrannical about this because what I find is often when writers try to pitch their book, they're so close to it. What they do is they start talking about the first chapter. And you've got about 2 or 3 minutes to sit down in front of an agent or an editor and really give them the quick thumbnail and hook them, right? So I learned my method basically from John Saul, and he taught the what if. And I added the so what to it when I look at the overall pitch. So the what if is, what if XYZ is going to happen? And the so what is, why should the reader care? And it has to be 25 words or less, including the words what if you happen to use it. For example, my book, Capital Offense, what if the First Lady is plotting to overthrow the president? And what if she's got good reason to do so? So that's actually under 25 words. I think that one really gets very close to 25 words. John Saul he was convinced that the best pitches were the shortest ones, like 13 words or less. So that's a lot to encompass in a book, and it takes a few weeks to usually get it down. Now, when we would teach the class about this, it was myself and John Land. John liked doing just like the Hollywood log line, which can lead, unfortunately, to meandering, which you just see the agent or the editor glazing over because they can't possibly hold everybody's pitch in their head. So we would teach the class, and then afterward, for about another 4 hours, we would work with each writer who wanted help to help them actually hone their own down really quickly, because the next day they were going to pitch. One of the people that is one of somebody I'm so proud of that I helped was Don Bentley. When I met Don Bentley, he was out of the military. He was a commander for an Apache. I don't know if they call that a platoon or a squadron. Anyway, he was Apache helicopter pilot and commander. And he had worked for the FBI, had worked for the DEA. He had 2 books that he'd written. He'd never been published. And I worked with him extensively on pitching. He left ThrillerFest that year with offers, please send me your manuscript. He got an agent, a 2-book deal, and now he's a New York Times bestselling author.
Yeah. Writing for Tom Clancy and everything. So yeah, pretty impressive. I have recently read a while back that a hook and a pitch. One of the things that I read was it, like you said, it got to be short. And I forget where I read it. I wish I need to go back and find it. But it was like 3 lines. Make sure your hook is like 3 lines, and that was what they were saying. So it's very quick. You don't want to meander like you're saying. So it kind of sounds like it's similar as just keep it short. So.
And what I used to say is, because they'd be so nervous, take a deep breath, sit down, and just make a friend. Introduce yourself, give them a pitch, and then let the agent or editor ask questions. And then now you can fill in after that. And if your pitch goes well, they will have questions if it is the kind of thing that they represent or want to publish.
So for indies that aren't going to pitch to an agent or a publisher, there's still a reason to do this. I mean, it's a tagline.
Absolutely.
Right? It's it's ideal for the top line you're going to use in the blurb for your book.
I also remember what Maggie Marr told us when sometimes you're in the elevator. You need to throw that pitch right then. So you need to know it's got to be in your head and ready to go. You can say, what's your book about? And you go, this is it. It's, what if this? So.
Yeah. So what I used to do to kind of convince the audience that this is important is, I believe, even before you're going to write the book, to come up with your what if, your 25 words or less. Because once you establish that, now you can really evaluate whether the book is something you want to write, whether it will sustain a novel, and whether it has any value overall. So it's a good way to just evaluate a concept. But after that, like you're saying, whether you're an indie or traditional, it does not matter, because someday you're going to be sitting at a book signing and somebody's going to walk up and say, what's your book about? A lot of somebody's are going to say that or ask that. And so when you have that tagline, boom, you can tell them immediately. So it's a very worthwhile exercise. It doesn't matter if you're traditionally published or indie.
Keeping it short, I mean, first of all, it's then punchy, right? And it makes you narrow it down to something that is punchy. And then the other problem is, the more you explain it, the more you have to explain it.
Right. And, you're not going to be sitting in the bookstore every day explaining your book to people. So, it also helps with your cover copy to sell the book. People start glazing over. It's like going on a vacation versus telling somebody about your vacation.
That's true. Wait, hold on. Let me get my slides out real quick. So,
Yeah.
I want to go on the vacation, so hook me. I'm going to glaze over.
That being said, let's talk about that. So, what are some classic mistakes that would make an agent's eyes glaze over? Or are those the kind of the same mistakes that might kill a book description too? Is that something to think about?
When you sit down and you start just really summarizing your first chapter and not summarizing the entire book, and you start talking about characters, and you've got, Bill, and then you bring in Jane, and then you've got Susie Q and, Bubba, the agent editor is going to just start glazing over with what's going on, because when you start to meander like that, they just can't possibly hold it all in their head. And that day they may see 100 people. So you've got to make it as easy as possible for them to remember what your book was about. So that's the biggest problem, is when you start getting, just meandering into the weeds. He was wearing a yellow shirt, too many details. She was, had a bone in her hair. You've got to really nail down concisely, like all good writing, concisely the storyline.
You want them to remember it. Like, it's the difference between, hey, I want to make tacos versus here's my list of what I want you to buy at the store and try to remember.
And now a quick word from this episode's sponsor.
I'm back. It's Jamie Davis, show manager for the Author Nation Conference. Make sure you stop me at the conference in Las Vegas this November to hear my daily dad joke. And with that in mind, I just wanted to let you know I figured out that my local librarian is flirting with me. She's definitely checked me out.
Now we'll get back to the show. Let's switch up. You mentioned Outliers, and obviously you've been on the show before and talked about Outliers. Great organization. We've done a class on Outliers for you guys. Yeah, we loved it. We got to do another one. It was really fun. One of the intro things, there's tons of resources there, and you do a boot camp, am I right? So a writer's boot camp. Talk about that a little bit.
So boot camp is a very small class situation where it goes on for 10 weeks. We meet every other week, and no more than 5 students in the class.
That's a great ratio.
That's very good, yeah.
Yeah, we keep it very small. And then what happens is I teach from each student's actual book. So we are actually working on their current work in progress. We meet them wherever they're at, whether they're just starting or whether they're in the middle or whether they're polishing, doesn't matter. And what we do is we usually meet every other week for about 2 hours, and we go through everybody's work and all the edits. I go through and edit and then teach from their work. And it's really beneficial because you don't only learn from your own work, but you learn by seeing the mistakes in other work. And sometimes we're too close to our own, so we can't really see it, but it's easier to see it in somebody else's work. And so basically it's coaching and mentoring and teaching all wrapped up into one. And I'm really passionate about it because I see writers really excel and learn so quickly when it's, so specific to what they're doing. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
One of the things I'm curious that you might be able to address is oftentimes being able to take coaching or learning how to receive when you're being coached. Sometimes, especially new authors, we've all had a tendency to, this is our book and it's the best. This is our baby. And now that we've been around for a while, we're like, oh, that last book was so terrible. So, but early on, you're like, oh, so how can an author who wants to be coached, wants to learn to be better, find the attitude to be coachable?
I think it's difficult for every new writer. I don't care who you are when you first start getting edited, because it is your baby. So I think it's important to remember, yes, it is your baby, but you wouldn't send your baby to kindergarten without shoes on and clothes on and all those things. So you have to look at, open up your mind a little bit and try to park your ego about 4 blocks over. That's really your ego that's getting bent. And realize that 2 heads are better than 1. And when you've got, expert advice, if you can put your ego aside, you're going to learn so much. If you can take the emotionality out of it and just look at it like any other product, and you want to have the best product possible. But it is hard. And I think that it takes just some adjustment. Myself, I've been edited out the wazoo for years as far as a journalist and with books and short stories and magazines. And the more editing you get, the more you realize that your editor really makes you look smart. So I'm all about it. So, I mean, I love a great editor. I'm hungry for their advice, but I think it's important to realize that everybody starts at the same place. There's so many things we don't know when we start to learn the craft of writing. You don't be embarrassed when you don't know something. You're not expected to know it until someone teaches it to you. And if you can just put your ego way over there and just open up your mind, you will learn faster, than if you have that embarrassment, emotions coming up, getting angry, what have you. Because you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable on the page. Originally, I think people feel like they're personally being judged, but they're not. The product is being improved.
It's just when you write a book, the relationship between the personal side of you and the product that you produce is very close. They're very adjacent. So it's tricky to put that divider.
I think you got to look at it too. Like if I'm not a basketball player, but if I decided I wanted to learn how to shoot free throws and hit them every time, I got to have somebody coach me. You're going to start from nothing, and I want to be lucky to get my ball up to the rim. So, I think it's kind of, if we look at it not just as this is a creative thing that we're doing, but this is something I want to get better at, and we want to learn how to get, and that's where I think the craft comes in, helping to continue to learn craft. That, Nick and I were just having a discussion before you came on. We both got 30 plus books each, and we're still talking about craft because we're like, this is, things change, things are different, and we want to be able to keep up with what we're doing. So
absolutely. And, Hemingway died trying to write the perfect sentence. I mean, you're just never done learning. You will forever, if you're a writer, you're going to forever be on the learning curve. I also think it's important to look at it from the perspective of what you're really trying to accomplish. So other than people who are writing for their family, like a memoir or something, they just want their family to read and, they don't have any other aspirations. Although I do find most people who do say they're just writing for their family end up, after they do all the work, wanting it to be a bestseller.
Oh, yeah. That's weird.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what you're trying to accomplish and to hit bestseller lists, et cetera. With the millions of books that are published every year, basically you're trying to play in the NFL in the literary world. And the percentage of people who make the NFL is so minute from all those, players in middle school and high school and college. So minute. Isn't it like less than 1% or something actually make it into the NFL? So when you want to play at that level, which is what you're trying to do if you want to hit bestseller lists, you're going to have to work your patootie off just like everybody else. And not to get religious, but I also say, when Jesus walked the earth, he couldn't get a 100% approval rating. So I hardly think I'm going to. You're trying to do something really difficult. So you have to expect that you're going to work hard at it.
So your boot camp, you take people wherever stage they're at with their manuscript. There's 5 people in there. What are you trying to achieve at the end of it? What are they going to walk away from at the end of the 10 weeks? Or walk away with, I should say. Not from. Yeah.
So that's up to them. So we can either go through and basically focus on about 50 pages. They get 10 pages each week to write, and or they can do rewrites and send them back in to see if they're getting the concepts and being able to apply them, because it's not just understanding the concept. I mean, being able to apply it is what's critical, right? So it really depends on the author and what they're trying to achieve with that one project. And the other part of it is, they're being accountable. They're learning to write up against a deadline. They, have to get 10 pages in. And so, there's a number of things that you get from it.
Going into that, they may be, all they have is their pitch that they give you, right? They have their premise of their story, or they might have already written something. What are you looking for at that beginning stage? Because you're going to have people at different levels of you might have someone who comes in and goes, hey, I've got this manuscript, it's first draft, I want to go back through it. And you've got the person who comes in and goes, I've got this idea, I want to run through the 10 weeks. what is the one thing that you're looking for to get started? I'm just trying to think, like if you come in and you have a bad idea, and maybe you've already written it, or maybe you're just about to get started. How do you handle that situation, right?
Fortunately, I haven't really had that situation.
Oh, wait, I'll send you one of my books. Don't worry.
I know that not to be true. So there. So if somebody has a quote unquote bad idea, so what I do, I can do story coaching and story editing and help them actually build out. In that situation where you're collaborating, so to speak, on a story idea, I work with them on creating a very loose outline. And I don't mean outline like Roman numeral 1, A, B, like you learned in school. What I mean is first, scene 1, who's in the scene, what time of day it's at, and 4 or 5 sentences about what's going to happen. And so I help them build the overall story arc very loosely and, look for where we're going to pivot and the complications, etc. And I can help them build a basic outline for what they're going to write. If it's a bad idea, we'll talk about it. It doesn't help for me to not tell them the truth. And so if you're going to do a story from a person in a coma who can't speak and it's their point of view, it might get a little long.
or really short, actually.
Can't hear anything. So there's got to be a really interesting twist to that, like they're leaving their body or something. Otherwise, we're spending a year of your time writing it and another year promoting it.
I'm just going to say, you better title it Snooze Fest is all I know. So you're going to write about somebody sleeping the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah. And I've heard some really interesting ideas over the years when I've taken pitches. So.
All right. Brilliant having you on again. This is lovely. This is great information. And a couple of questions to wrap this up for you. So what do you think is your author's superpower?
My author's superpower? I guess diligence.
That research.
Yeah, and persistent. I love research, but I could procrastinate forever on research, unfortunately. But yeah, and persistence.
All right, our last question to wrap this up.
We got our
the wheel, and we're going to spin the wheel.
Okay. Oh, I love this.
Gotta spin it. Like Vanna, although Vanna doesn't spin, right? She just
Am I going to get
letters.
a big discount on my order?
Nope, you missed it by 1. Yeah.
Ah, darn it. Yeah, so no, you get... No, okay, this one is, you do win. You win by telling us what is your favorite happy writing place. Where's the environment you feel the most productive? What is...
Oh, you're going to laugh. A busy coffee shop.
It's amazing how many writers like that environment.
I like that den of noise that just kind of is right there that you don't have to pay attention to. So
yeah, it's almost like it gives you a chance to look up every now and then and see what's going on that's interesting around you. But yet I can focus in and tune it all out. But I just like being around activity.
Yeah, I do better that way too. So
I actually like that.
Nick, what's yours?
Yeah, not that. I'm a golden retriever, so I have to sniff everything. So there's too many things to sniff in a busy coffee shop.
This is why we don't take him to conferences. It is so embarrassing for him to walk up behind me. Now we were at Boucher Con and he's over there sniffing at Michael Connolly. I'm like, dude, stop doing that.
They tie my leash off to something in the corner of the room.
Oh, that's so funny. You're not going to learn anything by sniffing except maybe what kind of cologne they wear or deodorant. Other than that.
Oh, don't underestimate what a good sniff will learn, let me tell you. So my happy writing place. Honestly, I think it's whatever I set up at home for my place. A view is crucial. When we were nomadic, we were really lucky that we got to stay in some really cool places with fantastic like water views and things like that. So I'd set up my working area to have that in the background. I'm in a fabulous place now because I live in Grand Cayman, but I don't have a fabulous view out my window, unfortunately. But it's just down the road, so I get to picture it. So I like my space with my stuff around me and everything in the same place it always is. That's good for me.
Yeah, the ocean overall is my happy place. So I completely get that. I'm a total water person. So
thank you so much for joining us once again, Kathy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kathy's so lovely, and what a smart lady.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to look smart around us, but she is she is a delightful person. I am so glad when we have her on. She is a lot of fun. So, yes.
Absolutely. And the Bootcamp sounds really cool at Outliers. We're big fans of the Outlier group. Her and Doug do a great job over there. So really good stuff. And I think what she was talking about with the pitch, that goes, it's easy to go, well, I'm never going to pitch to anybody because I'm Indian. I'm not going that direction.
But you are, because how many people ask you, what's your book about? Oh, you're a writer. What's your book about? Yeah, you are pitching every day to people. So
yeah, and I'm terrible at it. I'm really bad at, I can give a quick, they're mystery adventures. Oh, these are police procedural thrillers.
They have words. Mine have words in them.
Yeah, I put words.
They're not all spelled right, but they're all in there. So.
But having that pitch is important, and it's like you mentioned during the show. When you're at dinner with someone and go, "Oh yeah, what is it you write?" Well, here you go. Here's the tagline. If you have that practiced, it's great. It's great for book signings, all that kind of thing. Also, it helps you with that blurb, that all-important tagline for your blurb and stuff like that. So, good stuff.
Well worth learning it. So, definitely
Absolutely.
Check that out. So, for sure.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening in. Thank you so much for the folks that support us on Patreon. If you would like to be one of those cool kids that supports on Patreon, go to patreon.com/the Two Authors Podcast. It's an easy platform. You get tons of bonus there. We had a lovely bonus question with Kathy that you'll find there. We do them on video too, so you can look at our ugly mugs and her lovely mug.
And it's only $3. Did we mention that?
$3 a month. That's a month, not a show. A month. It's nothing, people. And we appreciate it. It helps, those little bits help to go funding this show because we don't make money at this. It's out of our pocket. So our wonderful friends at Vellum help support that. And the little sponsors that we have during the show help offset the costs. And so you can help us too by supporting us on Patreon. All right, you'll find a link to Vellum in the show notes, as well as Kathy's links, Outlier University, all that good stuff. And we'll be back next week with a new episode of the Two Authors Podcast. Until next time, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favorite platform for new shows coming every week.